Welcome to another episode of From Worry to Wealth podcast, part of the Wealth Creators Institute. Today we are joined by the lovely and talented Michael Munn, and we are looking forward to getting to know him a little bit better and understanding how he scaled his business. And without further ado, let's get on to the podcast. Okay, Michael Munn, welcome to our presence. Ben, have you noticed that Michael Munn has great hair?
I did know that.
It's
I
hard
got
not to
very
notice.
depressed staring at it.
So I feel like I should lead the introduction with how great Michael's hair is. But Michael is the founder and owner of BiltRite and probably a number of other companies that are in the space. And we're happy to have you here today to talk to us about your trajectory, how you got to where you are, how those things relate to some of the teachings that we have in our courses. And a formula that we've created. So we're thrilled to have you. And obviously I'm here with Ben as well, without wearing a black shirt. He's got the blue shirt on. He wants to stand out.
Had to be my own person.
Well, you always stand out, Ben. You don't need to stand out with your wardrobe. You just stand out inherently. So we appreciate it.
He does. He's got that Ben Hur kind of
classic.
classic.
Yeah. So
Not the Ben Hare.
The Ben Hur.
yeah, that's right. It's a little bit different. So yeah, Michael is a very successful guy, has built a company, and I don't know how long you owned the company, but you could
Started in 2006.
2006. Yeah. What an interesting time to start.
That's what I was about to say. We couldn't have picked a better or worse time to start a construction quality assurance business.
Right.
Just before the entire wheels fell off of the industry.
Right.
A couple years later.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
we've had to reinvent ourselves a couple of times.
Yeah.
But
I think I started a mortgage company in 2005. That was it's just not a great one to start.
it's bad.
Yeah. Just as bad, maybe arguably a lot worse than yours. But yeah, so BiltRite is how big now compared to?
So we started off as a construction quality management consulting firm. Initially, our only customer was volume home builders or custom home builders. And we developed a process after working for an industrial hygiene firm for a period of time. We learned that there's a need for, especially in commercial, like high-rise residential construction, being able to somehow measure and document that homes are in a good condition when they're handed off from the developer to a end user, so it's free from moisture intrusion issues, from indoor air quality problems. And it's kind of a hard thing to prove a negative, right? To say that something is not here, that it's okay.
Yeah.
So it was kind of tricky to develop that process and taking that and then applying it across the board of just overall construction quality management. It just is a good thing if you can consistently provide things that are a little better and consistently identify sort of systemic repeat offender defects, and then have a conversation about them and update your scope of work and update your process to where, you're always eliminating those issues as you move forward. Things are always getting a little bit better and everybody benefits from that. It's easier the salespeople are happier, the customers are happier, the
100%. Yeah.
the executives are happier, so that's sort of, we figured that out and found a way to sort of bake that into a really cool process. And we were going gangbusters, had an office here in Jacksonville, had an office in Phoenix, Arizona. We were going to take over the Eastern Seaboard from Jacksonville and run the whole West Coast out of Phoenix. And then
Planned in 2006.
2008 happened. And some of it, we had a signed deal with one of the national home builders for the entire state of Florida. And they called us up and said, we're leaving the state of Florida.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Not
there were just
surprising.
companies that had in Phoenix alone, there were 45,000 standing spec homes, brand new homes that were built as a spec with nobody buying them.
Michael's describing one of those market cycles we talked about in one of the other
That
podcasts.
you come,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got caught
So-
up in the market cycle,
Right.
in that regard. Yeah.
Right. It was a very exciting time. And so we were with all this great process and equipment and team and nobody to work for in the moment, so it was 07, 08 was interesting. But again, we took that, we looked around and said, well, who else can use what we're doing? And the people who were jumping into the market at that time were the hedge funds, the people that were buying all these REO properties.
For sure.
So we said, well, those guys need inspections too. And
100%. Yeah.
we learned to dance with them, and it's
So you jumped on the other side of the asset
Right.
managers. Yeah.
same dance, a little different music, but
Yeah.
you know, it had
Probably a
value.
different fee structure, maybe a little bit.
Much different fee structure.
Different fee structure. So your revenue model changed a little bit.
Had to ramp up the volume and reduce the revenue and make it work. And
Yeah.
but it was all, it's been fun. Each of these opportunities and each of these the tragedies, the failures, the moments of tough times, you learn something and you evolve and you grow.
And you're kind of known, certainly in Florida, right, and in Jacksonville especially, as one of the most educated and most capable resources in the construction defect and construction management field, having been hired as a defect expert by companies and homeowners and property management companies. Is that correct? And if so, how did you get to that position?
It is a weird thing. This has happened more than a few times, which is kind of a funny thing, is where someone will call and say, we have a need, we have this issue that we're dealing with, and they may be the homeowners association for some condo. This is a true story, happened right over here on Southside Boulevard. Condo association called us up, said, we need help with some construction defect stuff. Will you work with us? I'm like, well, okay. Well, then the contractor called and said, we need help with this condo thing. And I didn't realize it was the same property, but both sides were calling me.
Yeah.
And so meanwhile, these guys said, well, no, we don't want your expert. We want our expert. And then these guys were like, no, we want our expert. And then they realized they were both calling the same expert. And it's like, how about we just all get together,
right,
and figure out what's wrong and come up with it makes sense. There are people who are kind of the ambulance chaser side of the business, where the idea is to blow up the problem as big as we can
and use that as leverage.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're just booking hours against,
Yeah.
Something.
Lawyers would be that way.
Correct.
For sure.
And so we've always camped out around the idea of, let's just fix the problem. It's in everybody's best interest to fix the problem at the lowest cost in the most permanent way. So if that's a conversation to have, we will help. And in that conversation, we can talk to both sides,
right?
Because it just is what it is. If we can transparently figure out what's happening and then agree on the next.
So that probably wins you a lot of business, maybe loses you some business.
Correct.
Right? But it probably wins you a lot of business. Interesting.
The lawyer side probably loses some business.
That's just it.
Interesting fun
The
fact.
lawyers went away from being his client.
The interesting fun fact, and it was 2018 or 2019, a building that you and I know in Jacksonville, condo building that has 300-400 units over in the town center. We had a water intrusion issue in one of the condos and sent our architect over there.
I remember. That's
and
where we
I
met.
don't know if you know this story, but we sent our architect over there. And years later, we figured out that the condo association actually hired BiltRite to be the expert inspector on their side, representing the condo association, where we had our team on our side, which is pretty interesting.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, you probably didn't know that story, but that's literally where we were introduced to Michael Munn years and years and years ago, which is really funny.
Yeah. And
so he's not lying when he says that the associations call him, and
it happened.
and that's, yeah.
And if everybody wants to, do the great big, let's all sue each other, because when you sue anybody, you sue everybody in that kind of realm, And so, at that point, what we can actually do to help gets kind of diluted and washed out, because in that situation, nobody's really looking to fix it. They're just wanting to allocate a percentage of blame across as many different trades as are possible,
yeah.
because everybody's got an insurance policy, and they all have limits. So if we can cap the limits on
Again, the lawyer.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
How did you become the expert in that field? And so that's a unique skill that clearly you possess. How did you gain that skill and then take that skill and leverage that skill to build an entire company and a process and a revenue stream around that wasn't tied just to yourself? And the reason we ask that is because a lot of what we educate people on is how to better utilize their time, how to utilize leverage, right? Leverage other people, resources, finances, that sort of thing. So how did you become that expert? And then how did you use that skill, leverage that skill to build a company that at scale?
Fun question. So and we've done this a few different times with different things, and the process is pretty much always the same. Is in 2002, I got involved with an industrial hygiene firm that type of company in the old days, they got a bunch of really smart people, people with a different educational set than I had. So they're experts in mold and, microbiology and all of that kind of stuff and indoor air quality. But the phone wouldn't ring until something flooded or there was an issue, Legionnaire's disease or whatever. There's something bad happened in a building. Then their phone would ring and they would deploy like Ghostbusters and show up and
Like a remediation. Were they a remediation?
they were more the assessor than the remediator.
Consultants.
So they would establish what happened and why, and then what to do to how to fix it. But all that would do is bring it back to where it was before. They still haven't solved the cause and origin of why mold started growing or whatever. It was just how to clean up the mold, and they were camped out around that. So those guys I was just friends with them, and they were like, why don't you come work with us and let's figure out a way to have something we can sell that doesn't require a disaster happening first, a preventative approach to this. And so
it was their idea.
It was.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what they were talking about.
Yeah.
They're just like, seems like you could do this.
So they saw the opportunity there and saw you as a resource for that opportunity. Interesting.
And what we found out, we kind of pared it down to the what is the Venn diagram, the least common denominator that leads to all these bad things happening, which came down to moisture plus organic building materials plus time equals mold. Every single time.
Yeah.
Every single time. So if we can uncouple, all three of those things have to exist. So if we can control one, better if we can control two. If I can verify that neither of these two exist, then I know that can't happen.
Makes sense.
And I can objectively, I can make that statement from, time stamped, but we can make that statement with some confidence. And so then it was, how do we measure those things in a way that we can have some documentation behind it. And so this was the beginning of, back in those days, infrared cameras weren't being used a lot in building diagnostics, and they were about the size of a big TV. It was a shoulder thing that,
it's like a camera.
The battery lasted 15 minutes and took 6 hours to recharge, and it was $30,000. And we bought one, and we figured out how to walk through a building and document what was dry and what was wet, and what was wet we carved out, like, fix this, and then we would come back. And it's funny, I used to go
charge 6 hours, come back for the next 15 minutes. That's nice.
We just had a lot of batteries and a lot of chargers.
There you go.
And so these high rises on Peachtree Street, we were just back, we were on a cycle. Every other week I would leave from Monday morning, go to Fort Lauderdale, work down there, then drive Alligator Alley to Tampa, get a hotel, wake up, work Tampa, then drive to Atlanta, get a hotel, wake up, work Peachtree Street.
So you were the needed resource at the time.
Yeah. But as these buildings would go up, of course, they'd be putting drywall on the second floor before the roof was on the top, and they were working their way up. And this is just how this happens.
Yeah.
So it was always just kind of a loop back process of working your way up the building to where by the time we're done and the roof is on, we've verified that everything is now dry, or everything that had gotten wet has been fixed. And then we could give it that little certificate. And we were careful about how we wrote that certificate.
It was
very specific to this moment in time, and according to these standards. And there are standards for that. EPA, New York City Department of Health, IICRC, all of these different governing bodies kind of agree on a pretty good chunk of stuff that's measurable objectively. And so that was how it worked, is we would find these things that matter, find a repeatable way to measure and document these things, and then the output of that is a work product, a deliverable thing. And doing that, and then once we developed it, then you're just pushing the domino, then anybody could do it. We just had to train a person to follow these steps.
So you had this skill, you developed a process that was repeatable.
Yeah.
And it sounds like accurate, right? Based on a set of standards.
Right.
And you leveraged software or some system, and then you trained other resources, and that's how you scaled it.
Yep. Okay. And it was neat because the substantive, real value and validity of the output, in and of itself had value. And the other neat thing about it, and this became sort of a continuing thing to look for in a system that makes sense is it has to have value for more than one person. If something only has value for one person in a group of, you got developer, you got contractor, you got end user, you got sales staff. If you think about a condo development,
Yeah.
all of those people have their own agenda. You have financing, right? You got lender, you got developer, you got contractor, and the person who's living there. And if things go bad, some of those people are going to be suing some of the other people. So there's a motivation. If we can establish something that 2 or 3 of those folks agree is good,
There's value there.
there's value.
Yeah,
Because sometimes we would work for the developer, because sometimes we were working for the contractor, sometimes we were working for the architect, sometimes
the homeowner. Right?
Correct.
Yeah. Interesting.
So anybody in that at that table had a reason to see value. So it was easier to sell, because once all of them knew, then we'd sit back and wait for who wants to pay us. Because the cost of it on the scale of an $80 million project was pennies, and on a $80 million project, our fee might be $75,000 to work that whole building. But you do it, and a lot of times they would even divide it up.
You probably save them one disaster.
There was always, every single time we would demonstrate about a 10x savings of prevention of what could have happened. The elevator shaft, the mold on the inside of the elevator shaft, because the ACs weren't working yet, and we were having condensation happening because of weird little things that just got fixed during construction, that later on we would see the stories of the people who weren't using this process, and so that was a real revelation to realize that having something that's only valuable to one person in a conversation makes it harder to sell. But if you flip it around the other way, you got 5 times the opportunity to engage. If it just matters to everybody, then you just got to find the one that values it the most, or that has the most liability, or the most to lose if something goes wrong.
Yeah, so it's nice that translated through. Your original business model was targeting a certain industry, right?
Right.
That industry was significantly impaired, and you had this other industry come in and take advantage of that impairment, and it was actually applicable to that industry as well. What challenges did you experience in scaling that business, other than the entire world economy falling apart right after you started it? I mean, I remember those challenges. I'm sure Ben remembers those challenges as well.
Yeah.
I think maybe I was even hurt worse than Ben was at the time, but Ben and I started working together, interestingly enough, right after the crash.
Okay.
Pretty soon after the crash. So
08, 09.
we were both wounded soldiers, meeting and trying to devise business strategies to get through that time. And we always say that when you have the headwinds like that, at least for me, and I know Ben feels the same way, the opportunity, that's where you actually build all your value, right? Because when things are great, anybody could do it.
Right.
And things get very, very diluted in that market. I start to get very nervous when things are amazing, right? Because then people start making, poor decisions. They lose the respect for the fundamentals.
Yeah.
And so for us, during every downturn, during every market cycle change, we've seen a tremendous opportunity present itself. Were you able to see that at that time, or were you just in the grind of trying to survive?
It's
Or do you see it now, I guess?
I see it now. I see it now more than ever. And now it's like, those are the things to run at, through the years of all of that career development for me. The thing I didn't see until really the last 3, 4, 5 years is something Ben and I talked about like a week or so ago. I've always been an ops guy. I am a process architect. I like to figure out the most efficient, cleanest, sexiest way to do a thing, and then build a robust way to grow that thing and rev it up. And that's fun for me. That's life-giving for me. It's inspiring and stimulating for me. And I've always thought sales and marketing is for, if you got a great product, who needs sales and marketing? It's a great product. Look at it. It's amazing. It does wonderful things. But unless somebody is telling the story,
If somebody hears about it,
and if somebody hearing the
Yeah.
story,
that is an important aspect.
it is utterly worthless. And
So that's a lesson learned for you. It
You-
sounds like, because and I feel like I'm the same way. Ben is probably, more aligned with your latter thinking, right?
He
So
is.
marketing. Yeah.
and what I have always, for the longest time, I viewed that as an afterthought. Like, you develop the great prototype product, and everybody will just line up to buy your popsicles or whatever it is.
Jobs talks about this in some of his interviews.
Yeah.
He says, the engineers, we used to design products before he came back to Apple. He said we used to design products and try to then engineer those to be acceptable to customer. What you should do is solve a need for the customer,
Right.
and then engineer products around that and
Yep.
deliver that, which seems to be a very smart approach.
And often taking that approach, you're going to end up right back at the same spot,
Yeah,
but just with
possibly.
a different.
So
momentum.
you're a tremendous chef. You make the best food in the world,
Right.
and you sit there in your restaurant by yourself.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to be a great business model. So
Right.
you
Yeah.
not only have to have great food, but you have to have a way to.
Yeah, you're speaking Ben's language right now with the sales.
Oh yeah,
Marketing effort. Yeah.
it's true.
Because the best companies really do have tremendous sales and marketing.
They
departments.
do. And the thing that honestly opened my eyes, I read a book by, we talked about it, the guy named Donald Miller, called Building a Story Brand. And one of the things he talks about how, that the human brain kind of functions along the outline of a story. Every movie is the same, Star Wars, you name it. There's
Give the arc to the story.
correct.
Yeah.
There's a hero, there's a villain,
Yeah.
there's a trusted guide, and
In our story, he's the hero and I'm the villain.
I was just going to ask you the Biden. This.
so I think you're the trusted guy. He could be Luke Skywalker, you're Yoda, And but one of his other things is
Hyde reference, man. It wasn't a reference.
it's not at all.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But there's this picture of an airplane. A business is an airplane, and the cockpit is the executives, and the fuselage is your overhead, and the wings are sales and marketing, and the fuel is cash, and the engines are your products. And so if you don't have, what you want is an airplane with great big wings and a tiny little fuselage. And I was always flying an airplane that had tiny little wings and a,
Right.
that's not even, you can't even hardly steer that thing.
Yeah. Right.
Because you got to have
Steering
the
is
wings.
important in that analogy.
Steering, it is.
Yeah. Very important. Yeah.
Because conditions change and you have to be able to pivot.
Yeah. You really do.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really interesting. So it sounds like your operational prowess and your operational mind lent itself to building the right process.
Mhm.
And where you made mistakes early on or not having that sales and marketing engine to grow your business. What about human capital? Did you have any challenges with scaling the right resources?
Right. That's the other tricky part too in our business. Even when we pivoted from doing construction QA to home inspections for transactional real estate stuff, because that's kind of where we went with our skill set and our tools. We used to sort of look down our nose at home inspectors, like, oh, those guys, they don't
know anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we became those guys, and we had to learn. And there's licensing, there's all the things that have to do with doing a good job at that. But what we learned just as much is doing a good job. It's important to do a good job. It's important to have a great work product, but it's also important to make sure that you're getting credit, that the customer understands the context. Just one of our little things is, technical information delivered in everyday language, like that people have to understand, gee whiz, this is a great thing. Thank you. It's like if you went to a restaurant and you had no taste buds, you don't know if the steak's any good or not. Like there has to be a measurable way for people to appreciate
Some context.
Yeah. And the thing that we've learned about just the consumer at large is they don't necessarily have the capacity to measure that unless you teach them to measure it. So some of the things that we've had to learn to do is.
So is that a customer experience
It is.
aspect of your business?
Right.
So in addition to sales and marketing, customer experience is really important to your business. And it seems like that
Right.
translates to a number of businesses for sure.
Yeah. And it is the difference maker, and some of it, the type of personality that's sort of attracted to what we do. We call him the fanny pack home inspector. God, forgive me if you are one. We love you. But there's a guy who has that Mr. Know-it-all thing that I have to be the smartest guy in the room, and I have to, I have to make a mountain out of a molehill, and everybody has to just walk away going, wow, it feels like scorched earth, but oh my gosh, that guy's really smart, but now you've just wrecked everything that we were talking about doing.
That's a tough thing in that business, because you blow up a transaction, you won't get many more inspections, right?
Right, because we have to work together with real estate professionals and other people in the industry. And so we've had to learn to sort of subtly and almost unconsciously plant those seeds of, it's the old thing of, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, then I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to tell you what I did. Like that sandwich, what do they call it? The sandwich method. That if we anticipate a thing and then the thing happens, because that person realized that we just anticipated it, now there's trust. Now, okay, you've just demonstrated that the scheduler said, okay, in 60 seconds, you're going to email from us, and it's going to say this, this, and this, and ding, that happens.
Expectation setting, is that
right?
Yeah,
I think that that's a good way to, and doing that.
So managing expectations of the customer. There's an element of the customer experience aspect of this, the sales and marketing. Keep going.
Right, and there's a process aspect to that. That if by the time the moment comes when we've finished the home inspection, and now's the time that we need your undivided attention, because it comes down to, should I buy this property or shouldn't I?
Right.
Should I freak out? Should I run?
What are the gotchas, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And the way that conversation goes, if we have already 8 or 10 times said this is going to happen, and then it happened, and it can be inane stuff. It can be, you're going to get an email, you're going to get a phone call. Here's what you should bring. Here's what time you should come. And all of this stuff we can automate, right? And this comes back to the process thing, is that we can automate these things that feel like a personal touch. They're actually an automated sequence of events. But now that we're here in this moment where it matters, I do have your undivided attention. I do have your trust. I don't have to tap dance and do magic tricks for you to believe me, or for you to be able to hear and digest the important stuff. Because it's another way of, we talk about farming trust. Like, you have to, it doesn't come. Trust
is
earned.
Yeah.
Period. There is no shortcut.
Right.
But you can grow, it's like, you working in a gym. I can't just show up day one and decide.
Why would you say Ben works in the gym, but you wouldn't say,
well,
I work in the gym?
It's obvious.
It is obvious. However, I do have good authority that Alex has ripped abs.
Yes.
And so I'm not going to tell you where I heard that, but
listen, the AI can do anything.
airbrush abs sounds.
Yeah.
But it's you can't just walk up to that, and in today's world of instant, everything's instant, and, swipe left, swipe right, we've sort of lost the art of working to that, because we want people to really understand what we have to say. We actually do care. I mean, and that's the whole, the idea with the Donald Miller book is, people do business with you for only 2 reasons. They believe you to be competent, and they believe that you care. If those 2 things don't exist in a measurable way, you're not going to get somebody's business.
That's a lesson for employees too, right?
100%.
As they go on interviews, as they look at career opportunities. I mean, think about what he just said, right? You want somebody in your organization that genuinely cares and also is competent. I mean, those are really, really important things. And so it doesn't just play into a customer experience aspect. It's part of life.
Well, and the thing that was a revelation to me, and these are all things that I don't innately understand. These are lessons that I've learned the hard way, that I've bought and paid. I've got my ticket punched for all of these things, is because I would walk into a situation and I'm like, well, of course I care. And of course I know. Why would I be here?
Yeah.
But that does not come with it's not automatic.
Yeah, you can't just show up and expect people to understand that.
They can't read your mind. They cannot read your intention. So you've got to be intentional about demonstrating your intention
right
ahead of time. It can't wait till
And these lessons you teach so as you scale your business, you need other human capital to do that.
These are
right?
part of best practices.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely. And you're translating, I assume you're mentoring your staff and your associations, your inspectors,
50,
helping them understand that.
Right. Half of the time that we still do training, we still do meetings every single week with both our construction staff and our inspector staff. Half of that time is technical, half of that time is the people piece. And it's that important, and that me of 10 years, or certainly me of 20 years ago, would have laughed at that statement. Like, that's stupid.
What percentage of companies in your space would you say spend that much time on the human experience?
Practically none.
Yeah.
And
I agree with that, don't you?
I would say what percentage of companies in general
Yeah,
spend
true.
the proper
That's true.
time.
I'm just thinking about his industry, construction
So
industry.
this is working on it as opposed to in it.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and just the idea that, and again, the way the world is working with Amazon and all the things you can do without, I was just telling you a story about my wife. You go to a grocery store and there's 10 auto checkout lanes and there's one with a person. My wife still wants to go to the person because she is
A people person.
she's a people person.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, hi Tansy, if you see this.
Yeah.
She is a people person, but it's a dying art. It is a thing that is
It is a rapidly dying art.
rapid.
The
tide is going
now
out.
of AI is changing that even more.
And it makes things so impersonal and much harder to manage. I don't know that we're at a time. I don't know that we'll get to a time when every business process can just be automated on an assembly line and require no human influence. I don't want to live in that world, honestly. I'll go farm potatoes, somewhere, because that's not where life happens. The whole business and all of this in general just exists for places for people to rub up against each other and exist in
Interact, yeah.
community and interact in life. That's why we have businesses. That's why we have, none of us, I've talked to you guys about it before, so I know this is of your character. Like, you don't do this. A big piece of why you do this is because of the community that you're creating. You love it. It's a piece of you, and you're building something that's a work of art. It's a legacy. It has substance to you. And the further we get from that, the harder it is to grow your people and your product and your enterprise all in a balanced way, and
I think AI certainly is changing the world, but I don't know personally how the human gets fully fulfilled by extracting themselves from the transaction fully.
right.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest risks in the future is what do we do for personal fulfillment when you can do anything with a robot or whatever? Yeah.
Teaching, I've been involved with teaching for a long time, and you can learn anything now through AI.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Click
some
the
of it might not be right, but yeah.
But does it fully replace the experience? I don't know. I
I think the lack of personal fulfillment, right?
Yeah, I think the beauty is in the nuance and the give and take, and the to the extent that I saw a weird on Facebook, all of a sudden Mark Zuckerberg was on my screen telling me, guess what? We've got our next AI is going to be so great because it's just like the Matrix. You could plug in and gain and skip the line on education about anything. And all I could think is the things that I know that I have conviction about now. If you can't tell, I actually believe in the crap that comes out of my mouth because I've got the scars for it.
Right.
And if it had just, and there are some things I've read in a book, but until I put them into practice, part of why they had value is because there was an experience that led me to understand I need to grow in this area. I have a deficiency here, so if it's just on automatic, like I just think of Keanu Reeves and I know Kung Fu, it just,
It's better when you read something you've had personal experience with. I can translate it. It's way more impactful. There's no question.
The ownership and the ability to actually function in it in a meaningful way, I think is just exponentially more, and so how much, if we set that expectation for AI, are we just diluting we'll have a world of mediocrity, but the exceptional will kind of probably disappear.
Well, you've done a great job of scaling your business and leveraging your skill set and your resources to scale that business up, pretty significantly. I assume you're still going, you're trying to scale that business even further today?
Yeah. And the thing is that learning, one of the tough things is accepting the fact that even though I could be a great dancing monkey for the things that we do, I can't recreate myself to be the sales staff and the marketing team and what I'm sitting in right now and learning. You guys will probably both laugh at me because it seems probably obvious to you, but is that I'm almost doing myself a disservice as we are shifting to a more of a model of don't just do this because Michael and he seems smart and he thinks it's a good idea, so should you. I'm pulling myself out of that role and saying, if I truly believe in the thing, let the thing stand on its own. Find a good way to message it, find a good way to connect with people, and let that bring the business and then manage that growth.
So hard to do when you've been the face of the business for a very, very, very long time.
It's
very hard to do.
It's
very hard to pull your stuff out of your business.
Well, have you read the book, The E-Myth?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You gotta decide, are you the leader, you the manager, you the technician?
Right.
And if you have a great product, you just need now a system for delivery, right? Sell to the masses, dine with the classes, right?
It's true. And so that's the big evolution that I'm sitting in is be it's funny. And what's funny is, have you guys ever heard of a culture index? It's one of these things like emotional IQ, or one of these ways where you look at a bunch of words on a page and you circle the ones that mean something to you, and then it tells you everything you ever want to know about yourself. And it's pretty frighteningly accurate, and business owners use it to find people to put in the right seat or as a part of a hiring process. And it's really neat. But there are these different profiles that it's a
personality profile.
It's a personality profile, and it identifies your traits on a couple of sliding scales in terms of your battery, your introversion, extroversion, different things. But it measures it kind of your baseline, then it measures it. How do you do it in the workplace? Because it's different. We put on different internal filters in the workplace, and it looks at both of those, and then you are a this or a that. My wife is a rainmaker. So that's a person who just goes out and can make it rain. And what was funny is, and it takes about 6 minutes to do this, but it was dead accurate. And there were things that I wanted to be. I wanted to be a technician or a specialist or an architect. These are each different. You know what I was? A philosopher. And it ticked me off. I took it again, came back the same. And it has taken me time to embrace that and sit in the reality that it's actually
You became more self-aware as a result.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you read through it, it's like, okay, this does make sense. And the things that I've been beating my head against the walls because because I respect these other things and I value these other things, me trying to act in those roles long term is not the right spot for me. There's a better, higher seat for me if I accept who I am and then help other people to.
Yeah. Most importantly, like none of our individual selves are the company, right?
Right.
And whether you're the CEO or the president, people start to think in the business world that they are the thing, right? But the role is actually the thing.
Correct.
It's why if you're the president of a company, you get invited to a dinner every year. When you're not the president of a company anymore, you don't get invited because you're not the president, right? They want the president there. They don't want, Michael Munn there,
right,
at that seat. So it's an interesting dynamic.
It is, but it's freeing, honestly, accepting that and turning the corner and looking at the next 20 years of my life. It is liberating to say, okay, the real best use of my attention is in these other developmental things, not so much being the best home inspector
Right.
in town. I don't need that badge. I would rather have the best home inspection team
For sure.
in the country.
Yeah. How else
to
would you
be-
scale otherwise? Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we never, I don't think we ever arrive.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But it's sure a fun journey.
Well, the key to scale and what we teach,
Philosopher.
what we teach in the Wealth Creators Institute, and the ability to scale has to do with extracting ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and recognizing that the process that we've built can be scaled with the right people in the right spot. And otherwise, a great plumber doesn't make a great plumbing company.
Right.
And that's the issue, that if that plumber has a great technical skill, that plumber has to extract him or herself out of it and create systems that will scale that.
Right.
So that's what you're saying.
Oh yeah.
Is that right?
100%. 100%. And it's an internal thing and an external thing too. You know, it's an ego.
I was just going to say, are you willing to extract yourself?
That's the, you know, the
Did you put your ego aside?
you have to.
You have to.
You have to. And it's interesting when you realize the little dopamine hits that we get from when the realtor calls up and says, I really want Michael to do my inspection. You know, I got 10 other amazing guys, and the work product you're going to get is exactly the same. We've tested it. You can get the same 78-page report from anybody on our team, but there's still something that, but they want me, you know, and that is, and now when that comes, I run. I'm like, no, you don't. You actually don't. You want this. You want one of my guys,
Right.
because they're amazing, and it's to be very deliberate about pushing those things back, even to the point that you change the messaging. You know, now when we used to do little, you know, like social videos and stuff, and it would be myself and my daughter, who's worked with me for a decade. It'd be us. Hey, we're out doing an inspection. Let's talk about kickout flashing. And, you know, and here I was pointing and gesturing and dancing all around. And people would connect with that. Now we do the complete opposite. We can still be on it. And I can say, let's go over here. Let's talk to Ray. Ray, what is it that you're looking at? You know, and I've watched you guys do this too. And then let Ray be the expert. And you're just, I'm now,
You're checking your ego.
a casual observer over here with you, the consumer.
Exactly.
And it, boy, it's liberating.
Makes you
Sounds like we have to do a whole podcast on ego.
Yeah, we probably should. Ego.
It's
eroding a
raw.
lot of value.
That's our
It's
next
a major problem.
podcast, ego. We have a lot of stories about ego.
Any other questions for Mr. Munn?
How we doing on time, folks? 1:53. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, wonderful. Any other advice from your success that you would like to share before we part ways today?
I've got a pretty good idea who the audience is, but this could be like for anybody. But I think the one word is that when you asked me last week about doing this, the word that keeps popping into my head is the power of decision. That many of us, something I've suffered from is to be stuck in the valley of indecision, looking at options, weighing, you know, analysis paralysis. That a decision that pushes it forward. You know, as I watch, you know, football seasons are back among us, you know, and you can't just throw Hail Marys all the time. You got to first downs. Let's make a first down. Let's keep it moving. And sometimes it's 2 yards and sometimes it's 7 yards, but progress is progress. And you can't
realize Alex doesn't watch football.
That's why I'm talking to you. That's why I'm looking completely
sorry.
way.
Sorry.
Just saying a football player in here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, he's more of like a water ballet kind of a guy. No,
He was a little
not really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Or Clark's is, I mean, if you need a stick to play the game,
Beautiful in the ballet.
I bet you would.
Yeah.
But the find the best thing in the moment, pull the trigger, make a decision, and repeat. You know, there is something to with whatever it is. If you're in a family trying to restructure your budget, if you're in a business trying to figure out how to scale, if you're a person without a job from wherever you are, you could sit and think about it. There's an old saying, I forget who I first heard it. I got a lot of old man construction sayings in my head. One of them is, do something even if it's wrong. And that sounds kind of stupid, but honestly, there's something to it. Make a decision and then redirect and make a decision and correct, push forward, correct.
That's been the story of my life, doing something and could be wrong.
Right.
But you have to make mistakes.
Exactly.
I fell forward.
You have to.
If you're not willing to make a mistake, you're going to be in paralysis, right? You're not going to move.
Exactly.
And
ultimately, we are the sum. It's like anything. We are the sum total of the experience and whatever the thing is. And if you talk about, people talk about the leadership as a word, and it's just this big mystical. I just went to a global leadership conference. It was awesome. I learned a lot of things, but it's like, everybody can't be a leader, right? You can't have a million people in the room that all.
Yeah.
But it seems to me, to boil it down, and there's two things that define a leader. You look behind you, is anybody following? And can you make a decision? And then move forward. And that, the more you work out that muscle, it becomes sharper and sharper and sharper and stronger and stronger and stronger. And you can't get good at it until you've started off bad at it. So there's no shortcut to good decision making. It only comes by many decisions being made, some good, some bad, and you learn and you grow and you learn and you grow. But I think that's the biggest thing for this combo and this audience is just make a decision, even if it's small. Decide something. If you're looking for a job, okay, update your resume. Ask someone to review it for you. Update it again. Go talk to somebody who just got the job you want. My daughter just got an amazing job, but she still interviewed even after she had that one, she kept interviewing because even if it's not the thing you want, well, all the more that this is what you did want. Like there's the continuation of the process, making decisions, applying effort as a discipline. You can't just wait till the magical rainbow unicorn thing falls into your lap. It never does, but you can move that way.
It's good advice.
So preparedness. So opportunity happens when, right? Success happens when preparedness meets opportunity.
Correct.
Is that right? Is that how that goes?
And there's something to momentum. I always look at the picture of, riding a bicycle. When you're sitting still, it's awkward, but once there's some momentum, you can get going and then change direction very easily once you're going, and I think the just that thing, get up, do something, lean in, push forward. And even if you're just getting practice in the process, that's still a win, and you may have to come home and eat ramen again, but now you're a little bit better at it. And the next time you walk in, that confidence only comes and competency only comes from the doing. It's got to go from theoretical to practical, and there's just no shortcut for that.
Michael Munn, that is a great segue into explaining to our viewers and listeners that the Wealth Creators Institute is not just about this learning, but we have a second phase of that. Unlike a school where you're just learning and then they throw you out and say, thanks for your money. We are a place where you learn and then go apply. And Alex and I and our entire mentorship group work with the students in the application. And I think that's a big differentiator. So I appreciate your saying that. I think the real doing, right, is the key.
That's where it has.
So Alex, you want to close us out?
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Mr. Munn. We appreciate your time.
Honor,
It's
privilege.
been fun. And we'll see all you guys on the next one.